Okay, everyone, I should be going over to the camera now. Good. Hang on, just last couple of things to plug in. Here we go. Excellent. That's all good. Hopefully, you'll be able to see me any second. Oh, we got a few people on board. Very good. Oh, bit over my head, as it were. Oh, there's Angie! My technical support. Say hello, Angie. No. Oh, there we are, you see. Oh, I didn't expect that, did you? A bit more dramatic than we thought it was going to be, that opening. Alright, so we're just going to say hello on the chat. Oh, there's more people chipping in all the time. Oh, yeah, good evening, hello. Can I chat back? I think I can in a second. Oh, Ross figure painting is Angie now, apparently. There we go. No, won't let me type anything. Alright, just give everyone a minute or two to join us. I can see people joining all the time. Right, great. It's very exciting. It's been a very busy and exciting week. Right, do you want me to move this across here a bit, Angie? That'll make you happier. There we go. Okay, I don't know what happened there. Why it's suddenly went all over that side. Alright, evening all. Right, lots of people saying hello. Great, let's get ready to rumble. Okay, now the main things. I'll just do a quick catch up on what's happened this week. It's been a very busy week. Can you hear okay? Yep, sound's coming through. Everything's going well. Great. I just can't type any comments, but that's okay. I'm talking, and there's lots of comments going up. Evening all. Evening, Hugh Evans. Done a lot of work this week. I'm going to show something from that. J.A. Purnell. Hello. Richard James. Peter Kemp. Robert Pierce, or Legolas, is here. Angie. Jeff. Great. Good to see you all, Richard James. Right, what I'm going to do first of all, just a little recap on what happened this week. Quite a lot. One is, right at the beginning of the week, I got a call from Tim. He discovered very close to where I live, in a place called Rue Saison. I've been asked to spell that, and later on I'm going to have the 2 cameras set up so I can write things out. I tell you what, let's just see if that works quickly. I'm going to press this, and I'm going to write it out. I can't see what I'm doing, so I hope this is going to be on the screen. So look, yeah, Rue, which means ridge or steep slope, and then Saison, which is Welsh for Saxons, okay? So that's going to be, there you go. So that's how you spell it. If you want to find it on a map, I should have put a map up as well, and I'll rectify that, and I put one up on the what do you call it, the Britain's Hidden History Facebook group, if you want to have a look at that one. Okay, right, getting back to me. So yes, the first thing, almost immediately, was so excited. Went straight up with Tim, straight up to the top of the hill fort. Hopefully you've seen that video. It was fantastic, great walk, loads of stuff up there. And the other thing that Hugh has pointed out since, there are actually some mounds on there we need to explore. More potential star mounds, and we'll see more about that in a second. Other thing that's happened this week, as you saw, introduced the Cymroglyphics bite size. So that's little short 5-6 minute videos giving different examples from how to write hieroglyphics, how to read them using the Welsh language. I mean, it's just so easy. I've got a book here. There you go. There's my book, which I scribble all over and get battered. The new ones do look nicer than this, okay? Da, 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 da. There you go, with a beautiful Cleopatra on the cover there. And you could just read it. It's just like reading any other language. I mean, the fuss that's made with the conventional system about contexts and trying to work it out and spending 20 years just to work out how to read a sentence. You know, what possible use could that be for anything? You know? Oh, and carries on. What possible use could that be to anyone as a writing system? And this idea that things can have 12 different meanings and you have to think the most likely. It's useless if you send someone a message or you write on the walls of your temples or something. What possible use is that? And I have a suspicion the same thing applies to cuneiform or cuneiform. Whereas if you watch the lectures on how to do that, you'll find it's the same sort of thing where every word can have a dozen or more interpretations. And it takes you 30 years to learn how to piece together the right ones. I'm skeptical, to say the least, and we'd like to look at cuneiform at some point. Anyway, so we got that. I'm going to do more little... lots of people have been asking for little 6-minute bite-size videos. So there's going to be more of those on the mounds and what we're finding. I mean, this is mind-blowing. You'll see some more in a minute. About the star map and some really, really powerful evidence. One thing that blew my mind particularly. Need to hope we get that working. And then we have and the bite-sized history as well. Little chunks, little stories, little just rather than full-blown videos. Hopefully at least one a day between all those subjects, or an average of one a day. And then you can just drop in, read 6 or 7 minutes, and it's a little memory thing. I find it really useful, for me anyway. Just doing it is a good exercise. You got to look at the numbers, the facts, get them all down, and then you can play it back yourself. Just listen to it, get to learn it better. And it's how you learn subjects, the easy way. That's why I like to learn them anyway. Also on that subject, just finished now recording audio of the first half of Arthur the War King. So a lot of the videos are already up on YouTube. Going to put the rest up. As you know, if anyone's listened to any of it already, that I read these out as bedtime stories for my children. And you'll find on some of the recordings there's quite a few amusing interruptions and questions and comments, sound effects, noises in the background. So I'm not sure it's quite professional enough in its current sort of format to produce it as it is. Hello to Rob and Zoe, Catherine. Oh, there's loads of people on now. This is great. So, but I will be making that available, the first half. It's 80 odd recordings and they're all about 15-20 minutes. So you can see it's quite a lot to listen to, and it's great. Because that's all about the story of King Arthur II, which is what I'm going to attempt to do a short summary of in this video today. I'm not going to go through masses and masses of data or references and all that. A lot of people have asked, can I just have an overview of the story of King Arthur II and, you know, who he is in his historical ways. Oh yes, and someone mentioned Merthyr on there. That's going to come up very shortly, but I've got to save that for another video. It's a whole new exciting area of research that people are doing, and I'm just kind of the reporter on it. I need to work out how to present all that because it's absolutely fascinating. Alright, so where are we going to start on today? Yeah, the first thing we're going to look at is the mounds. Now, I need to do some clever stuff here, which is never very reassuring for anybody, I know. Come on, computer. Excellent. My computer's decided to go slow. I've just messed things up. I really want to show you something in a second. Let's take too much stuff open. I was a bit last minute getting everything ready. Took longer than I expected. Right. Okay, so... Right, just 1 second. What I'm going to do first of all... Right, now to bring those people up to speed, I did a lot more last week about how the star maps work. The idea is there's mounds all around South Wales, other places as well. There are other star maps in Britain, all right? There are some in England. Right, just give me a second. I thought this was queued up. It's not quite queued up. Won't take long. They're all over. I'm sure there's some in Scotland. The problem is so many mounds are destroyed on such a regular basis, so quickly, who knows what we're missing out on. But one we certainly know is the South Wales star mounds. And just to give an idea of that, really going to show, here it is. One in particular was the one I can see outside my window, so I've been familiar with it. It's something I've been looking at all my life. Great that these things work all day. And then when you really need it, it's like, come on! Yeah, it's coming, the little things on here. Yeah, so you look out there all day and you've got the 3 mounds on the Garth, which I've spoken to loads of people now in the area. Not one person has been able to say, yeah, I recognise those. That's the belt of that's Orion's belt. People just are not aware of it. Oh, hang on. Sorry. So what we have there, right, people are just not aware of that. So what you find is, those are the 3 belts. I do a run through to show you how cool it can look on Google Earth and research. What I'm also going to do, while waiting for that to load up, is explain that there's 7 main stars in Orion, okay? So the belt is the 3. As the archer is pulling back the bow, the smaller stars picking out the bow and the hand. It's quite a good outline, actually. And down to the feet and and you can see the arm here. Right, it's starting to come to earth. Life, come on. Here it comes. But what you ask is the 7 main stars, which you can most easily see, okay? Come on, we rehearsed this earlier. Why aren't you doing it? Come on. It'll come in a second. I have to be a little bit patient. All right, so we got those 3 main stars in. And one of the things I got wrong last week, I thought that the monkey tump here would be the... Remember the monkey tump in Tontig? Well, I was thinking that would be the bottom of the belt. And then the further out star, which I could see on the hills across the way, that then would be more likely to be the actual foot. But it turns out, no, it's a bit further away, the Garth, than I thought. And it's the... Why isn't this just loading up? It's been doing it all day. Anyway, and the foot is actually the monkey tump in Tontig. Alright, so what I'm going to show you now... Why have I got this thing on my screen I can't get rid of? Right, okay, good. Right, come on. I'm now going to do screen share. And hopefully you'll see the world hoving into view. And there we go. We are zooming in. Yay, there we go. I can see it's working, thank goodness. We're zooming into Wales. Alright, and I'm going to zoom in and zoom in and zoom in. Yep. Thank you. I don't know why that's what was causing the trouble. I don't know what it was doing there. And we're going to zoom in. And... Come on, where's my markers? It's Peterston. There should be 3 markers there. Alright, bear with me 1 second. And I just pop those open again. This is the one we want. MT is Monkey Tump and Star Lines. You'll see this. Do you want to reload? Yes, I do. Why didn't they load it the first time? There we go. Hang on, sorry about this. Best bear with me. This is worth the wait. Trust me on this one. Right, here we go. Okay. It's Pontypridd, and the mound should be here. Why aren't you on my screen? Okay. I don't know why they're not coming up. Life does this to you, doesn't it, sometimes? There's Bearthai. Okay, well, I can show first of all, while I wait for that to hopefully load up, that first of all we've got here is Rue Saison, okay? Just to confirm where that is. So for those who are asking me, can you show a map, please, exactly where Rue Saison is? This is the village. Oh, but it's actually not much help that close up. This is the bypass, the A473. Llantrisant, Evelissa, Llantidvardra, and the Garth is here. And it looks like it doesn't want to work. Here's the Garth, sorry, here's the Garth. And for some reason the markers haven't come up. That's really weird. Okay, we'll have to abandon that. We'll have one more go at the end. Sorry about that, I don't quite know why that hasn't worked. It's been working all day. I've used it loads of times, okay? Alright, we'll come back to that one, alright? These things happen. Okay, so we're going to go straight. I really want to show that. I'm going to talk about it quickly instead, okay? And that's what I could do is try and maybe draw it or something. But what I really want to say is that some staggering things. The first of all is, you have to imagine the layout of the Garth. Actually, I can show the layout, can't I? I will have to put the stars on myself, and you can't see them on here. Alright, so we can do... Okay, so... Right, what we have here, it's got the Garth, and the sort of distances we're talking about. We've got the 3 Penturch, so the Garth is here. You've got the Belt of Orion, 1, 2, 3. So it's upside down as we're looking. So I'll be practicing this as well. I'm going to flip it the right way around. Because what I want to show you is how what Hugh has done is really clever. You can actually see not only the belt, you can see the stars laid out, and you can watch the sunrise at different times, and you can see how this is aligned. And you can actually see Orion constellation in the sky matching up with where the mounds go. And there's some other things which Hugh has discovered, which was a check out before we start sharing those. There's a lot of excitement going on there. Now, what really freaked me out, so this is the kind of scale we got here. So we've got the 3 on the belts, we got the one, the foot there, Tonteg, we got the other foot, which I did the little video of the other evening, just to give you an idea of what these look like, okay? Let's see. Alright, so we're pretty sure that this is Rigel, okay? We've got the Rigel. Bit of trouble finding it, but we here now, it's not really signposted, and it's big. Bigger than I expected. Look at that, it's a proper mound. Now, I'd love to go up there sometime and see from there the view across to the Garth, which is over that way. I could just about see the tree and see the Garth. It's a bit, probably can't hear me. Right, I'm sorry it's not... Shame, we just rushed out, we're so excited. A bit. I think it's the bandwidth. So let's go back and have a look at it. By the way, the point is, that mound you can see behind me. Alright, so we're pretty sure job of blocking out at the moment. This is Rigel. Okay, we've got the map Rigel. That's Upper Church Village, alright? So if we look bit of trouble finding it. We're here now, it's not really signposted, and it's big. Bigger than I expected. The one you saw before, Monkey Tump. That is a proper mound. Now, I'd love to go up there sometime and see from there the view across to the Garth, which is over there. And then you'll see. I could just about see the tree. Very exciting to me. See the Garth, it's a bit windy, probably can't hear me. Only shame, we just rushed out, we're so excited. So let's go back and have another look at it. You can see the Garth from there and how far away it is, alright? I cut that one short because it's all jumpy. It's not much fun tonight, is it? It's hard work. Right, it'll get easier with the Arthur stuff. Right, okay, the point is, one of these major 7 stars is one of the few stars, when seen with the naked eye, appears red. Alright? Its name is Betelgeuse. Maybe that's where the film came from. I don't know, alright? But the point of it is, it's red. Now, for those people who know the area, can you think of anywhere, and we're going to be looking southeast of where the Garth is there a major landmark that's called red? It's got red in the name. And I'll give you a clue. The Welsh word for red is Coch. Okay, Coch. Can you think of any place with the name Coch nearby? Yeah, Castell Coch. The Red Castle. All my life I've wondered, why is it called the Red Castle? What's red about it? But that ties up with the star. I mean, how amazing is that? So you've got all the stars laid out. They all fit perfectly with Orion. There's a lot more detail on this amazing Google map, which I'll put up as another video during the week when the technology can all run as one go, which might be a bit easier than try and do that as a live stream. It seems a little bit too much from it. Alright, so but what you have then is all the stars laid out, and the one in the place we're expecting to see something to do with red is there, and all the mounds are named, and all the places fit. And it's absolutely mind-blowing to see it laid out, because not only is it this set of mounds and stars, there's some all over South Wales, and it's vast. It's a vast project, and very exciting. So I've noticed a couple of copies, I don't know where they've come from, but a couple of copies of Discover the Ark of the Covenant are on Amazon. I'm not recommending or anything. I've ordered one myself, hasn't arrived yet, so take your chances, but it is possible. And we are going to be producing something soon which will cover all that work and all the new work and more extensive detailed star maps. And we're doing this with using a lot of technology and clever guys like Hugh and people working out the points. Wilson and Blackett did this largely by looking at books and walking around. It's amazing how they did it. how they saw it was there and how they just worked it all out is mind-blowing. It's incredible. And while we got Rob, who's doing something very similar. He's been doing the hard work over years now in the Merthyr region and over towards Crickhowell. And there's a whole another story there in the landscape. It's backed up in the names, it's in the landscape. And we're going to go up, don't forget, it's the summer solstice on the night of the 20th, the 21st. So we're going to go up to where he suggested and sleep overnight. Well, I don't think we'll sleep much, on the hill. And look opposite to see if indeed the sun does come where Rob's predicting it does. So that's going to be an exciting moment. And I'll take a camera so you can follow that. Alright, so one of the things I want to do now is Soul Star Mounds. Let's move this around so I can see the comments. Okay. Oh yeah, they got someone else has mentioned there. Andrew as well. Thank you. Talking about the lines. We're talking about energy lines and stuff. He's in the Oxford area. Some of these, I can't give too much away at the moment, but I am going to say something about it because you'll find that it's something that Rob's been working on for a long time, and Hugh, and there's Kerry, there's other people, all been working independently in their research, and they're all discovering these long lines of energy, or ley lines, whatever you want to call them. And some of these are, well, go back as far as the pyramids. We're talking on a vast scale. And if you've never heard this subject before and you just hear that, you think, oh, that sounds ridiculous. Well, it might sound ridiculous until there's so much evidence. I thought it was ridiculous. It's so much evidence, eventually you have to start thinking, my goodness, how does all this come together? So thank you for volunteers to help. I've had a few messages this week. The bigger the team gets, the faster we move forward. The people working on this project, some of them have said they've been working on this for years. There's a couple for decades. And they've made more progress in the last few weeks than years of previous hard work. That's what happens when you have people to talk to, swap ideas, synergy. And that's what Britain's Hidden History project is all about. It's not about hiding information or keeping it or mine or anything like that. It's the opposite. It's open, it's available, it's shared, and as many people get involved as possible. And I see my job more as a reporter or anything. I'm just getting the stuff out there while a lot of clever people do what they're doing. Oh, the other thing I did do this week, which I'm going to mention, is I met Sian for the first time, who invited me up to see her favourite mound. There's a spot she's been going up to every day for years and years and has written a fantastic poem about it. It turns out that's Tuin Tudor. It's another mound, the mound of Tudor. And we've looked into who that mound is, and we've worked that out. Well, I say we've worked it out. We found it in one of the Wilson and Blackett books in the end. We didn't work it out at all. He worked it out years ago, and there's a picture and everything. And it's Tudor the Great. There was a Tudor. You have to go back. And I'll do a full video on that mound, because it's quite a famous mound. And of course, there's no clues at all on any of the signage or any of the official websites that it's actually a burial mound and who's buried there. Even though there's a church right next to it called St. Tudor's. You would think it's pretty obvious it belongs to Tudor. There we go. Right. Take a quick break for that. Any more questions on the mounds? Let's have a look. Was there anything under Castle Cork before they built it? Because it is so new. See, that's a great question. That's from Patricia, who's doing a lot of research on this. The most amazing reader of books I know. And has always sent me great suggestions and questions. The short answer is, all I'm aware of is a much earlier castle on the same site. And if you visit the castle, which is when you're over there, we can almost see it out the window, you can go up there, and like you said, the current structure was built, 1800 or something. It's a bit of a rich man's folly. You go in there and the rooms are actually beautiful. It's not at all like an old medieval castle. Although they did film, oh come on, who can put it on the comments? I'll say, Richard James, thank you. There's a Norman castle built there 1081. And I'll think you find there's a lot more ancient Welsh castle there. It's a key point. And I will be mentioning Fortress Glamorgan in the Arthur video in a second. So we'll get on to that. What would be great to find out is, exactly what was there all that time ago. Is there a mound there? I'm going to have a good look up there. I love going up there anyway. It's a great place of woods. Wonderful source of wild garlic. We go and scrounge some of that every year. Tastes fantastic. Smells great. Make pestos, all that kind of stuff. Now I really am digressing here, aren't they? Alright, so I'm going to get on to the Arthur stuff, because that will come up. Okay, right, let's see if I can get this right. Now, don't panic when this comes on the screens. Look very tiny, tiny, small, and you won't be able to read it very easily. Come on. Yes, there it is. Right, so we're going to talk about King Arthur. Let's work out who we're talking about first, okay? Now, as I said, the idea of this is not to go through every blow-by-blow detail, because there's a lot of discussion, different ideas on some of the finer points. And I could go through all the sources and references, the lives of the saints and the charters in the churches, and you've got the Brecon records, Book of Tyleo. There's all sorts of sources, and we can discuss that. I don't want to get wrapped in that right now. This is like a 101, if you like. If you don't know the story of King Arthur II, we're not going to argue whether it's true and all that kind of stuff tonight. We're just going to go through the story as presented by Wilson and Blackett, all right, to give you an idea. So the first thing is we have to put him into a historical context. I know this is very small, don't worry, I'm going to zoom in a second, okay? So don't panic about that. What we're showing, the reason this is on there in full, is this shows the family tree going all the way from 322 right the way up to 1091 AD, when the last King of Glamorgan there was murdered by the English, of course. Right, so let's push through onto this, or the Normans. Yeah. Okay, so there's a bit closer now, and now we're getting into the interesting area, okay? This is the first, as you notice, there's 1, 2, and if you scroll down a bit, there's 3 Arthurs, there's another Arthur over here, there's about 5 Arthurs altogether. And it's not so unusual. If you think about the English kings, you've got Henrys, there's 8 official King Henrys. As Alan Wilson mischievously points out in one of his books, you'll find there's actually 9. And that's another story, which is very interesting. There's one Henry, which is it was an English king. It would be Henry the 2nd or 3rd, and he's just been written out. And that's another story. Anyway, not talking about that today. But it's not just Welsh history that gets obliterated. There's inconvenient truths in English history as well, okay? And it's a whole British subject. So going through here, we go all the way back here to Victor Uther. So the family tree goes back further. I'm going to start from here. And his campaign, another one of great interest, over here, if you can see just the right of him, you can see my arrow here, is Gutheren, which is Vortigern. And he's the one who is known as one of the great traitors who introduced the Saxons into Britain. He's the one who's said to have done the deal with Hengist and Horsa and caused a lot of the trouble. His own son... Is my mouse gone? My mouse is gone now. Life's harsh sometimes. There we are. His own son, Gwyddelian, had to take the throne from his father, Guthrin tried to usurp the whole of Britain. And to help prop up his position, he brought in Saxons and other Germanic tribes to support his position. Okay? The problem was that he didn't have the support of other British kings. The more he brought in, the more unstable his position came, and he became rejected. And he's now one of the great 3 traitors. So I could do a whole video on him, and how he married Rowena, who is a Saxon. And then via his own daughter, he had Faustus, so that was incestuous. That upset the church as well. And also when he married Rowena, Guthelin, his son, was worried that he'd promised the Saxons and Rowena that any sons would take over the throne, which would cut out Gwyddelian. So he ended up fighting a civil war with his father and various support from the rest of Britain, which gets really complicated. The reason I mention it, just one point I want to make, is that, and there'll be maps and things in a minute, so don't panic. I'm not trying to overload you. But one thing, when you say that the Angles and Saxons were brought in as kind of coast guards, protecting the coast of England, where was the attacks coming from? Where were things like North raiders and Viking raiders, things like that, or Irish raiders? Well, you got the Irish raiders obviously coming on the west coast of Britain, mostly attacking Wales. You've got things like the Vikings attacking on the north shoreline. there's no real raiding or attacking going on the southeast coast of Britain. So why is it that the Saxons that were invited in and other peoples, why are they in the southeast? Why are they facing south? If they're coast guards, they should be facing northeast, not down there. Well, the reason, and it's why it's relevant to what we're doing here, is because that's the direction of Brittany and France, where the rest of the British forces and kings were waiting. The maps are available on the website. They're for sale. Sorry to interrupt there. I need to keep going on this one. So, what you have there is he is shoring up his position. He's worried about attack from the bottom. And you have to remember, to see on the maps, Britain included part of Brittany as well. Now, they're part of the thing then. Where's my mouse gone? Disappeared. Great. Lost my mouse. So, anyway, Arthur 1, if we follow the central tree down the middle. You can see the mouse on your screen. Here it comes. All right. Controversial. Is he Arthur? Well, his name officially is Androgathius. And he is known as Arthur of Greece. Not because he's Greek, but because he died in Greece after the invasion. And that's a whole other story. I'm not going to spend too long on Arthur 1. But that's the whole idea then of the Roman Empire splitting and being a British side to it. Then we got Tithern. And then we'll go through a couple more generations. Tathel. And then the ones we're interested in today, Tithfalt, who we talked about a lot the last couple of weeks. Tudrig. Tudrig's the key one here. He's the one who was the martyr. He's the martyr at the crossing, the Saxon crossing, when his son Myrig was chasing off the English army out of, or the Saxon army out of Wales. Tudrig is one of the hermit king who held the pass with just his local retainers and people like that. And unfortunately for him, received a mortal blow and was buried just up the river at Mathen, the place of the king, which actually used to be called Merth Tudrig, apparently, which is Tudrig the Martyr. All right, so then we come down, his son Myrig. Now, the story with Myrig, I'll make the story, we see the maps in a second, but the basic thing is there was a double cross going on with Ginner of Cornwall. So he ended up invading Cornwall, and there's a lot of confusion. The point I want to get to is, in the Wilson and Blackett version of events, he was obliged as a king to get rid of Cludog, because Cludog was causing problems. In the process of murdering Cludog, he took a severe blow to his hip, which made him maim, as he called him, and he was unable to lead the armies. So this is where we come to the interesting point then of Arthur, who we refer to as King Arthur. He's Arthur II. That's the famous one, and whose life I'm going to talk about in a minute. And he's recorded in various places, like the Brutes of England, and I got a long list of references here, but that's for another video. So we'll go through with Arthur II, but it's important to see where he fits into the historical timeline. So he's born round about the 500, maybe a bit earlier, maybe a bit later. He was definitely an old man by the time of his death, which is supposed to be around 579. Ooh, that zoomed in too much. All right, okay. So what I'm going to do now is this is the Britain of the time. So if you're looking at that, I'm going to zoom in a second. That's the Britain of the time with the crisscross areas representing Britain or Wales. And you can see all the research that went behind this if you look in the book Arthur, King of Glamorgan and Gwent. And I'll be sharing more of it in little bite-sized videos. This is a classic example of where a bite-sized video would be perfect. Just go through all those different areas, show the different maps, and explain it all. The point is, the checkerboard, the squares, are British population. And this is very important, because as you can see, it extends right over towards the east of England at this point. And this is sort of in the heyday, if you like, of Arthur's rule. So we're probably talking about 540s, 550s, something like this. And you'll see that the kingdom goes all the way up then into these mixed British and Anglo-Saxon populations up towards Scotland, and then the Picts. And these are the areas we had a lot of his troubles he had to deal with, which we'll go on to in a second. The reason I'm showing this map, I'm going to zoom in a bit, is if you look on the right-hand side, on the east, you see that King Llŷr of Leicester, he died in 465. And this is important because what it does, it shows that there were still British kings alive and well in eastern and central England, or Britain at the time of the 5th century, and presumably longer. Where this becomes important is things like looking at Sutton Hoo and the Lexden Mound and places like this. You can see from looking at the information of who the kings were, that even though they're deep in the heart of England now, a lot of those places were British at this period. So when you find the Sutton Hoo helmets, for example, there's no certainty at all that it's Saxon. If you look into the whole thing about Vendel helmets and all that, they're all found in Britain. They could all be British. It's not really based on anything. The only hard evidence you have there, things like the boat being made out of iron bolts, which the British do and they don't, and there's a whole list and I've done videos on it. Now, if you move further west, you'll see that you can see King Arthur is mentioned. He is now this is where it gets interesting. And this is where I have a slight, go slightly differently to Wilson and Blackett. And I want to explain what a lot of historians think and why it's slightly different. King Arthur was needed at the age of 15 to lead the armies. So he became the Uther Pendragon. That's something I meant to mention on the family tree part. So it gets confusing, because if you remember back up to the top one, there was someone called Uther. Much like you have Julius Caesar, everyone's then called Caesar. Uther is like the victor, you know. So you've got Uther Pendragon, the victorious head general. Alright, so Meirig has become Maim, and I think this is the root of the problem, just trying to trace King Arthur. Meirig was Maim, he did not resign as king. This is how I understand it. Meirig stayed king. Arthur became the new Uther Pendragon. He became the new High Commander of the armies. So not technically the king. Although if you look at the inheritance, this is where you also get the confusion. Through his mother's inheritance, through his mother's side on the family tree, he does inherit the kingdom of Gwent. And he's king there in his own right, sort of independently of Meirig. Meirig's overall king of the British. He's got his own holdings. Arthur's got his own holdings. So it's quite confusing how the British did it. Especially when you throw in things like legates and army commanders and all the sub-kings. It's complicated to work out for certain. One thing is certain is that record of his coronation appears in the Brutes of England, and it's one of the best recorded events in the whole book. Oh, sorry, yeah, that's right, Brutes of England, that's right. So it's certainly recorded as being a major event, as are other parts of his life. So just trying to give a bit of historical context there and the sort of country we're looking at. And here's a close-up. You know, I've done an article on this, and I will do another video just to go through it. This is Fortress Glamorgan, as Wilson and Blackett write about it, and I've written about it. Although, it's pretty much taking what they've written and rewriting it, so I'm not making any big claims there, okay? And I wish I could see a cursor on here. That's quite frustrating, because I want to point things out. Here we go. Right, so these are the main areas we need to consider for the heart of Arthur's kingdom. So remember, he's in charge of all the armies of Britain. He's the overall ruler. He's the Uther Pendragon. He might even be the High King. But it's a situation where the kingdoms themselves, as I interpret it, are still being run independently. He's not the sort of de facto or direct king of everywhere. This is his domain, all right? This is the Fortress South Wales. Oh, and the cursor's vanished again. Oh, come on. Here we go. Right, okay. Now, the system works along the lines of, for those who don't know the geography of South Wales, this is east of Cardiff, Newport sort of area. There's Cadwent and there Caerleon, which is the Roman place, which is the only part of Wales that gets any real money spent on it from this era. So you got the Roman place, there's Cadwent, the British place. What would be lovely to see is possibly the big hill fort up here, which needs to be exported. Earthworks here, what this refers to is during the era of Arthur, his cousin, St. Illtyd, was in charge of umpteen thousand monks, and they were trying to reclaim this lost shoreline due to losing it to the sea. So that's reclaimed land they needed for increased cavalry. Come on, cursor, disappear on me again. Here we go. part of this defence is the fact that if you're coming in, you've got to cross these various rivers, okay? Or you've got to cross the mountains. So the key to the defence is putting your castles where they block the valleys to stop armies coming in. Okay, and these are the main castles that we can see. This is the River Daff. So I quite like Daff, which is a sort of mutation of Taff. Taff is what we generally call it. So if you come up, come on, the mouse just disappears like that. Come on. Anyway, if you follow the River Taff, where you see Castle Mound and that, this is the area we were talking about earlier, referring into Castle Corch, and where you see Carrai. There are a couple of Carrais, and it's not a very large-scale map. But that Carrai is the hill fort we climbed up on Wednesday. So now I really need a mouse, because I want to show you the route of the invasion army. Right, getting back to the life of Arthur. So, Meirig has handed over to the young, I'm not even sure if he was king, but the young high commander of the armies, at the very least, Arthur. And immediately word gets out to the other side, to the English and everything, to the Saxons and various other people. Hey, the British are in weakness. The High King is supposed to hold all this together. He's lame. He can't lead his armies. It's not going to work. Control's gone over to a 15-year-old who's never led an army or done anything. So this is the chance, and that's when the big invasion comes. And the invasion comes across the Severn, this big estuary you can see at the bottom of the map. And that's the story of that campaign, where they get moved around and dragged around, and eventually you have the climax of the Battle of Baden, which is near the middle of this map. I can't point to it, unfortunately. And there you see the final showdown at the hill fort on the video I went to during the week. That's what's so exciting. If you look around the place names, a lot of these place names still exist. So you've got places like in the middle, Pentre Meirig. Pentre Meirig, if you remember, Meirig is the father of Arthur. So all these place names around here, they're all from this sort of golden era, if you like. So Llantrisant, the clan of the three saints, Tristan, Dyfodwg, Gwanno, those three saints are all from this era. You've got most of the churches, the place names. This is the era it refers to. It's a golden era of Welsh history, and there's people pointing out here that even some of the stuff which is proclaimed to be Roman is not Roman. It's not British. Well, who's to say for certain? But certainly you can't be certain it's Roman either. There's a joke Alan Wilson makes if you see one of the old videos of him from the 80s when he's in his pomp, and he says, "Here I am. I'm Welsh, and I'm sitting in Caerleon Amphitheatre, and I got this stone, and I'm going to put it there. And I'm going to get another stone and put it on top. So now that wall is Roman." And you know, Alan's like, he does it with a completely straight face, you know. And it's hilarious. And he makes a good point. Because one of the things that's pointed out about Caerleon, for example, the amphitheatre, is the stonework. Goes like that. And then you get these big diagonal stones. Partly it's a structural thing and to stop it collapsing, whatever. But it's a certain style of stone laying anyway, and it's called herringbone, and it's very, very unusual. And what's interesting about it is it doesn't occur anywhere else in the whole Roman Empire. Just in sort of southeast Wales and parts of the west country of England, the only places where you'll find it. Nowhere else in the Roman Empire. So why is it assumed it's Roman? Why? Why is it assumed it's Roman? It's a British building style in Britain, in a place where the British are known. It's like the British are not able to build anything with stones. It's bizarre. Like you see with, watch the video on Garn Diffyth, where you'll see the massive stone structures falling down, deliberately pulled down by councils. You go up to places like Arthurstone, where you see the ancient burial grounds of the old British kings being overrun, destroyed. You can go to up to Caer Caradoc, and there's wind turbines on it. The whole thing is a disgrace. It's an absolute disgrace. And we have to get the word out now and explain to people how much is being lost. As Churchill who said, you know, a country with no past has no future. So it's important, these things, and people should know about it. And also they're great to visit. It's really, really interesting to see these places. And it's quite shocking how they're being destroyed, really. No other way of putting it. Right, okay, I'm going to move on a bit quickly. Because I'm dwelling too long on this part, and time's going to be running out before I even get there. Okay, so this is the map. The fortress is all designed. You've got, I think it's a red herring, Penarth, the head of Arthur. No, Arth is Old Welsh for the defences. That's the head of the defences. The Garth is the main centre of the defences where the beacons will be lit, and you can see all around, up on the hills. See on the videos, amazing views, okay? I've really got to push on. Because what I want to talk about now, after that Saxon invasion had been destroyed, they slaughtered everybody. I mean, I'm not trying to say that Arthur was a particularly pleasant chap, but those are the times they lived in. You know, if you kill 20-odd thousand, people might not come back. And it was a long period of peace. During this time, though, the situation was different up in the north, where the British communities up there were getting their own sorts of problems, being attacked by Angles, Picts, and various peoples up there. So the call comes, and this is where the confusion over the poem The Gododin lies. Because Wilson Blackett's interpretation, which seems very reasonable to me, is that is a call to arms. There was the treachery of Vortigern, which 300 British nobles were killed in a peace conference. The great treachery. This is why I have the saying through the generations of never trust an Englishman. I'm sorry, I have lots of English friends, nothing personal, but that's been a saying for what must be 1600 years now. And the Gododin talks about then the territories of the north being lost, the northerners. And these people came down as refugees into Wales. And the call was from people like the writers of that poem to say, we got to get back up there and teach them a lesson and smash them. And Arthur seems to have given the people there three choices. In the usual sort of alpha male choices. You can leave, just get out of Britain, go for good. You can acknowledge me as your king and ruler, or you can all be killed. So there's the three choices. They chose option 3. So as we'll see in a second, the most important, one of the well-recorded parts of Arthur's life is his 12 big battles. As you'll see, it's not really 12 battles. A day of fighting is called a battle. So one battle might be 3 days, will count as 3 battles. This map's important. It shows you the logistics for how they got there. You can see the 2 lines. Oh, I got a mouse again? No, it's decided to go forever. Oh, here we go. So we've got the naval route, which is the supply line. And that will be bringing up logistical support, food, clothes, weapons. The mouse is gone. All the things you might need for that. This is why Arran, people have asked on the Britain's Hidden History group, is Arran an important part of this? So we go right up to Arran, which seems to be like a sort of a centre, if you like, a drop-off staging point for the army, where casualties can be brought back and forth for healing, re-equipment, rest, stores could be supplied, and there's a constant stream of ships going back and forth to Wales to supply this. Now, what really frustrates me is the number of people shown this map to, who are sort of cynical people, if you like. Oh, it's ridiculous. How on earth could a Welsh army get all the way to Scotland? There's no problem with a Roman army coming all the way from Rome to Scotland. That's like, whatever that is, 800, I don't know, how far is it? 1,500 miles? I don't know, it's a lot further than it is from Cardiff anyway. And they got no problem with Alexander the Great, supposedly in 300 BC, 800 years before this. He can walk all the way to India. And a lot of them walk back again. That's fine, that's totally possible. But to go a few hundred miles north just seems to be completely impossible. And I'd highly recommend Arthur the Walking book, and I will be reading the second half in little installments and recording them and putting them up there as an audio book. Look out for that. So what you have to do when he gets to Scotland, there's a lot of conjecture about where these battles were, and this is the most compelling argument I've seen. I've read Chris Barber's arguments on this. They're very good as well. Some people put these battles in the west of England, east of England, all over the place. But this is the only one that makes sense from a strategic point of view. And as you follow the story, you'll find out. So we get a little bit closer in, and you can see the campaign was basically a constant driving north, with one diversion to the east to Dinas Eithne, which I think is Edinburgh. And that's where you see there, split the enemy, wipe out one half, come back down, wipe out the other half. Do it in detail is the military term. And then the ones who are finally fleeing, they're picked right to the very top north, which is the Battle of Bassus. That's where you really want to crush them. And it's a slaughter, really, to make sure they get completely gone for good. And what he's also trying to do as well is remove this constant threat which you see on the west coast, which is the Scots and Irish who are trying to penetrate. We'll do Ireland another time. That's complicated. And you see, you got Scots, Irish, Iwerddon. Who are the Irish? Who are the Scottish? I think the Welsh have got problems. It gets even more complicated. Anyway, we'll go on to that. So they fought the Battle of Douglas, all these various battles, and it's a gripping account. And you want to go through all of them. And again, that'll be another separate video, but I don't want to do too much in one go here. We got anything else on here? Okay, there's loads of comments. Nothing particular on this, I don't think. So study that map and look out for videos on that campaign. Because the object of this video is just to remind you to give an overview of the life of Arthur. Okay, so a big part of it was his campaigns going right up there, and his reputation was to never lose a battle, battle after battle after battle, and made the whole country safe for the next 30, 40 years. No one dare go near him while he was alive. And of course that goes on later on when he dies, and they have to keep it quiet as long as possible. He was dead because he's only got children and sons, very young son to take over, and it's going to be a problem, and the country might be taken advantage of. Right, so we have to return quickly to this map now, as we're going to go on to a little bit further into Arthur's life. Oh my goodness, I was almost up. So what we're doing there, we're looking at the situation where the rule is going stable, and one thing I want to bring in there is the Turach. Make sure I pronounce that correctly. This is from the Mabinogion. It's the story of the bull charging through Wales, and the bull starts off in Ireland and charges. Arthur goes over to Ireland to pursue it, but he's outmaneuvered, he's outfoxed, if you like, and this bull goes charging through Wales. I desperately need a pointer. Here we go. Through Wales, and ends up destroying various towns and being pursued by Arthur until it ends up in this kind of area here, which became Mercia. So this is the origin of the Mercians, and this is a campaign is crucial. And if you read it, the Vandals is what we're talking about. We're talking about the Vandals. The Vandals who swept down from Europe, down through Rome, smashing the place up. That's where the term Vandal comes from. They end up going over to North Africa. Finally, the Romans came and tracked them down and kicked them out. Where do they go? They disappear from history. Well, bang on cue, as they disappear from North Africa, this army called the Bull, Boar. Sorry, did I say bull? I said bull about 10 times. Boar. The boar, which is the symbol they have on their shields, arrives in Ireland. Arthur goes across to sort them out because they're rampaging through Ireland, where the British have holdings. Just want to mention that. There's British holdings in Ireland rather than Irish in Wales. They went back and forth. Anyway, that's another story. And then these Vandals are gone bashing their way through Britain, with Arthur now pursuing them, having returned. And this way, talk the little piglets being killed. They're the lesser princes, and Arthur's princes chasing them. The whole Mabinogi story makes sense once you know what they're discussing, okay? The Turach. So they go up through the Midlands, and that's where Mercia became, which is the Vandals. Which is why when people like the Venerable Bede talk about the Mercians, he doesn't know them as fellow Angles or fellow Saxons. He curses the British for not having converted them to Christianity, and they're a completely separate element. On some occasions, the British even ally with the Mercians to fight against the Saxons, and the whole politics of that, which gets really complicated. Nothing like the simplified version we're told, where Angles and Saxons just arrived on the East Coast and just pushed their way through. Nothing like that at all. So this much more complicated map of Britain. The other thing I went to refer back to, wasn't it, down in Cornwall, down here. This is where we have Geraint ap Erbyn ap Constantine. Well, Constantine was the one in the story who usurped or got rid of Gunnar. Gunnar was two-faced, and Gunnar did a deal with the Irish, with Finnar, who came round to attack Brittany. On his way back, Mairig, Constantine, all those awaiting, destroyed his army, destroyed Gunnar, and also destroyed the threat from Ireland, because by this stage there was a lot of British influence with the Irish court. And by removing one of the claimants, the other one was happy to be allies. So this is how Arthur secured his throne. He's made the fortress around Glamorgan. He's made an alliance and from his father. He's getting the benefit of this sort of arrangement with the Irish. The problem in Cornwall has been taken away. That's been got rid of. And he's got loyal family members and over in Brittany. So when it comes to that Scottish campaign we talked about, all the armies can be brought together without worrying about being attacked from the rear. It's not pleasant. So all his forces are free, and armies came over from Brittany, and it must have been an amazing sight to see the massed armies in their wonderful armour and heavy cavalry going all the way up to Scotland to fight that incredible campaign. So after this situation, of course, then the big moment, which doesn't get into any history books, is the comet. Before I go on, so I almost missed something. When the Vandals are passing through, this seems to be the moment when Arthur's glorious son, called Nowi or Nowi, N-O-W-I, Nowi, it would appear, was on a scouting mission to keep an eye on them or, get near to them, but not to risk himself, because he was the glorious one. He was the shining child. He was going to be the heir to Arthur, and he got killed during that campaign. So that's the timing when Nowi got killed, was by the Vandals most likely. So then we have all those complications with Arthur having to find a second wife and get new heirs. And while this is all going on, it would appear to me that he's handed over the heir. The next heir will actually be one of his nephews, Medrawd, or his brother. So we could jump back to the family tree and you could see who they were. Does that work on this? Yeah, hang on. Whoa. Good time to look at the family. There we go. Right, okay. So we have here... the two nephews are actually from the other family tree. They're from the family of Cole. And we come across to those. So there's Arthur 2. There's his brothers, Frioch, Idnirth. And then he's got children via the various players. There's Nowi, who was going to be the heir. Who unfortunately... Hang on, that's the wrong... I made a mistake here somewhere. Tudrig Maedre Arthur. Okay, no, that's the Nowi there anyway. I think there's a bit of confusion on that. I'm just confusing things. Go back to where we were. Okay, so the campaign... So he's going over to Brittany, taking the armies, because the asteroid has destroyed everything. And this is the point where this is where the discovery of America is made, whether deliberately or by chance or blown off course by the effects of the meteor, the comet. He's going over to America. Arthur seems to be sitting in Brittany with his army, which is less devastated than England and Wales is, where there's been dreadful destruction, and the country's uninhabitable for 7 years, they say. So when we go into that situation, this is where Medrawd has taken his chance to take over the throne. And similar to Vortigern, Guthrum, generations before, he's also seems to have employed various allies to help him with this, Saxons and Angles and whoever he can get hold of to have a decent army. So then we come on to the next conjecture then, and dispute, if you like, about Arthur. The question is then, Arthur had to come back from Brittany to regain his territories and put the person he wants on the throne, or take the throne back for himself, whichever version you prefer. And then you have the question of Longborth, where that landing was. I'm not going to get into the details, but I think you'll find Chris Barber has it on the 7, whereas Wilson and Blackett have it more towards West Wales, and Chris Barber has, because the famous battle is Camlan, C-A-M-L-A-N, sometimes C-A-M-L-A-N-N. Now, Camlan makes sense to me, but as Wilson Blackett say, it's a place just south of Dolgellau called Camlan, and you can see the battlements and the trenches and the signs of where a battle was placed. So what seems to have happened is Arthur's routed him, coming this way if you follow Wilson and Blackett, or even further over here, followed by Chris Barber and that, coming this direction, and it would seem they've been pursued and pursued. And the problem Medrawd's got is his army's all spread out. They're looting and foraging, and he's got family. He's not moving very quickly, whereas Arthur has just got an army from Brittany. He's moving very quickly. He's caught up with him. So finally, the place Medrawd decides to make a stand is the Crooked Pass, which is Camlan. And you can see the defences, a bit like Thermopylae with the Greeks, form a trenches, narrow pass, reduces the advantage that superior numbers have against you, and you hold your position. And that's where the battle seems to be. Unfortunately, in that battle, the heir that Arthur had chosen also seems to have died. Arthur seems to have got wounded. This is another conjecture. It's one of those really annoying sentences in history where some people read it as Mordred and Arthur died, and some read it as Arthur, and it's like the battle where it was Arthur and Mordred died, i.e. only he died, not Arthur, which seems to make more sense. But some of these things are tricky. So the story would then be that Arthur recovers and carries on running his kingdom. Now the next question, of course, then is where's Avalon? And Chris Barber puts that right up the top off the Llŷn Peninsula, up there somewhere. That island there, I think. Bardsey Island. Is that Bardsey? It's around there somewhere. I think it's a bit there, actually. Anyway, Bardsey Island up there. And whereas if you look at Wilson Blackett's work, they go for Avalach being the area. Cardiff Bay. You've got the Great Stone Harbour. This is none of those things that probably built around this period in Cardiff Bay. There's a massive stone harbour. I tell you, if there's one word of Roman on there, that whole area would be dredged and it would be an international museum spending millions on it. Because it's pretty clearly Welsh or British. No one wants to know. Just don't want to know. It's just like, just pretend there's no massive stone harbour out in the Severn off the coast of Cardiff. And it was Portman Moor is the road that led to it. Okay? So this is where we got the situation. Let's try to check on the comments. In North America, there was a skeleton found in a river, a spear wound in the hip that was very old. I don't know if that connects. Stonehenge is going to be live steamed this year for the first time on the solstice. Sorry, slight distractions there. Yep, that's right, because you can't go there because of social distancing. Well, we'll be up on a hill, very socially distant from everybody, I think. And we'll make sure we're 2 yards apart, won't we, Rob? Right, there. So there's the area around Cardiff. So that's his main stronghold. So the question then, of course, where did Arthur die? And where was he brought back to? Again, another controversial area. Some people say went over to Brittany. And it seems to be in favour. People like Chris Barber and other historians I've read. And you'll find a lot of traces there of an Arthur. And if you remember, we were talking an hour ago about Tudrig retiring and becoming a hermit. Well, there's every chance, of course, that Arthur did the same thing. Because the Arthur that's recorded in Brittany, northern France, is very much more saintly. And he's not seen as a warrior so much. He's seen more as someone who did good deeds and brought good things, and his statues and monuments to him. It could just be that Arthur visited there because it was part of his kingdom or part of associated kingdoms. Let's put it that way. If it wasn't his, he was run by his cousin or friend or whatever. They're all allies, so you could travel there quite freely. But there's certainly a strong tradition of Brittany. And this is something I had quite wrong until recently. So I have to read different authors because you always pick up something. That I'd always gone with the version that the reason that the French had the Arthurian stories and legends was purely due to the Normans coming to South Wales, finding all the stories, and then taking them back. And then you get, the various people, the chansons and that, start that tradition, and it gradually morphs into Mallory and all that kind of stuff and changes. But it would seem there is an Arthurian tradition there as well. But I would argue that's possibly either Arthur during the time of the meteor when the land was uninhabitable, and that's why you get so many stories about questing nights. They're going out to see if the land is, you can live there again yet. They're exploring and finding out what's going on, and that fits in with that. Or the other version, which is where Wilson and Blackett tend to go more for, is that he did go across to America, and as was mentioned there by one of the comments, J.A. Pinnell, I think, there's a chance that he was killed in America. by First Nation Americans, Native Americans, Indians, whatever you prefer. And he was brought back. The body was brought back. So I'm not sure who the buried body is mentioned over there is in the comments. Anyway, there's a lot of evidence to support them going to America and Arthur himself going to America. And one of the things, which I'll just throw in just a clue, but that's definitely a separate video again. One of the things I'll just throw in as a little bit of a clue is that something that's been twisted in the Mabinogi is this idea of the other world. And this has been made into some sort of mystical, druidic fantasy place. It's all fairies and wonderful legends and myths. Because what Wilson and Blackett argue, convincingly I would say, is Otherworld actually is a reference to America. In the same way as the Europeans, later Spanish, called it the New World, the British, Welsh call it, or the Cymry call it the Otherworld. So I know a lot of people there are very attached to the idea of another world and the spirituality and druids and things. Was it Druid tradition? I don't think that's part of it. But there you go. How do we know for certain? But the other world would seem to refer to America, and a lot of the references tie in. So then you got the situation either way, whether he's died in Brittany or he's died in America, the body then has to come back. And this is where the idea of Bardsey Island comes in. Where he might have been died and buried is some historians' view of it. The other one is, the Wilson and Blackett have, is that he comes up the Iweni River. I should have put these graphics in, would have been cool. I think most people have seen them anyway. You come up the Iweni River, and if you look at the Songs of the Graves, where the translation was garbled and mutilated, people like Skene and that, going back a bit, no one actually checked the translation. It says Arthur, what's the famous line you see on the front of almost every Arthur book, and it's like, blast, it's so famous. The grave of Arthur should be unknown, or something like that. He'll never be known. It doesn't say that at all. There's a whole 2 paragraphs about Arthur describing where he's buried. And you got the barren, stony shoreline, up the Iweni River, and there you find the cave where St. Illtyd, if you remember going back, was his cousin. I also meant to mention Dyfrig, also related, probably did the coronation of Arthur. But anyway, Tudrig was there. Sorry. Illtyd is there, and Illtyd's going to look after the body that's been brought back up the Iweni River. You can see it. And if you go to the cave, you'll see in the videos who've been there, you can have a look at the video, see Legolas leading the way bravely. You'll see where, and Hugh, we haven't seen for ages, another Hugh. You'll see a burial site, a grave, if you like, cut out near the entrance of the grave. It's been badly vandalised since. Honestly, it's scandalous what's been done to the history, deliberately as well, a lot of it. Anyway, so the idea is he's buried there for a short while, and then he's brought up to where the service was held. Massively recorded service. There's records of it all over. The families listed. Again, Brutes of England are covering it. All these hundreds of people came to the funeral of Arthur, the official funeral. And that is must be St. Peter's Church. It's the only church up in that particular point. And then we're looking at Caer Caradoc. And then you have the mystery, where was he finally buried? Because it would seem he wasn't actually buried in the church. And there's some good ideas where he is. And some people in the group have got a pretty good idea. And I'm pretty sure Wilson and Blackett have kept this one close to their chest. And we're hoping stay in touch, because in the near future, we're hoping to go there and maybe do some sort of official ceremony. Some people have talked about opening the tomb. I'd rather not do that. I think if we can prove it's there and scan it and everything, let it rest, and put a monument or protection around it is the option I would go for. I don't like disturbing things like that. So there's discussion going on. Either way, the exact spot will be known up on that mountain, up on Mount of the Gaia somewhere. All right, so we can go into that. So that's very much the death of Arthur, and then you've got the problem then of the succession, whereby his son, very young, so Frioch, the brother, takes over, and pretty soon one of the first things Morgan does, as he's old enough, is kill Frioch and take the crown for himself. So let no one be under the illusion that this is some sort of cuddly bunch of rulers here. It makes Game of Thrones look like nothing. When you go through who was fighting who and that. They got Malgan, who takes over in the north. Supposed to be the biggest man in Wales, 6'8" of him, like a giant. And this really is when the Golden Age starts to come to an end, sadly, for Wales. Because Malgan, who was supposed to know Arthur when they were younger, or even educated together, he's up in North Wales, and he's decided he wants to be the High King. He wants to be the main man, the big boy, in charge of everything. And the southern kings of Esloig, Glamorgan and Gwent, they won't go along with it. They've always been the head kings. They provided the Uther Pendragon for the last however many years, 100 years or so, maybe longer. And they refuse to be part of, take rule from Maelgwn, who seems to be, I don't know, maybe arrogant, not quite the right word, but this big, strong, imposing character who's made himself the king, and the others are saying, no, you're not the king, we're not having it. So, of course, what happens then inevitably is that when the next invasion from England comes, whether this is the Vandals or the Saxons, and they drive through up into North Wales, the southern kings, no, you're on your own. If that had happened previous generations, the southern kings, the real population centre and strength and might of Esloig and Glamorgan and the main armies would have gone up and smashed them all the way back again. Has happened to Hengist and Horsa after the betrayal at probably at Stonehenge. The actual betrayal was with the British buried up on Caer Cradock, the people innocently killed. That's one thing. If you look at E.O. Gordon, his book Prehistoric London, and the name Stonehenge is supposed to derive from the place where they hanged all the bodies of the British that were murdered at the peace conference. So it's a pretty unpleasant, it's the hanging stone kind of thing. It's a pretty unpleasant story and gruesome, and is witnessed and backed up in many separate accounts. So it seemed then a retribution battle was fought campaign was fought by the British, and they recovered the bodies and returned them for burial in Caer Cradock, rather than the conference being in Caer Cradock, which I think I've said in the past, and I think some people have thought. But anyway, so there you go. Hope you enjoyed that. That's an overview. As you can see, there's lots to cram in the story of King Arthur. And that's not even doing all of it, but at least it's doing quite a lot of it. So hope you enjoyed that. Right, let's have a look now. I'm going to go over to the comments, and I go back to me. Remember Mikey Harwood used to say, and this is me. Show my age now. No one knows Mikey Harwood. Protect the king, may he return. Well, I think, yeah, I should have said one thing I would like to say a little bit more. Excuse me, looking at an angle. I'm trying to read the comments which are on the other screen. I can't see a way around this. One thing I would say about the cave, this seems to be the birth of the legend of the king under the mountain. And the idea is in Welsh folklore, these stories. You go in there, and if you ring the bell, you'll wake the knights, and they'll come and save Wales, or save England, or save Britain, depending which version you look at. I've got my own little pet theory, which I'm sure other people have had before. I'm not trying to reveal something amazing. But if you look at many ceremonies throughout history, and this goes right back to ancient Assyrian times, includes Osiris, and even with Jesus and various other major historical characters, there's always a story of a death, a short period, usually 3 days, and then a resurrection. I don't know, this does seem to fit in with the Arthur story as well. So how long he was buried there for, I don't know. But maybe it was a ritual rather than a burial. But I guess that's a difficult one to know, just some ideas thrown out there. The British Lion, the House of Judah. Yeah, well, don't forget, we found the Lion Stone. There's this massive stone, the Lion Stone, which is not far away from there, and points directly at Two in a Glow, where we believe the Ark of the Covenant is buried. So if you're new to this subject, you're going to be thinking, what the heck's he on about? The Ark of the Covenant, the Lion Stone? Just briefly talk about it, is that you can follow the long trail, discover the Ark of the Covenant book, and the long trail of the Ark is following the lost, or the 10 tribes of Israel, possibly the 12 tribes as well, in Judea, how they get deported around the place by the Babylonians, up through the north of, where Israel would be, up into Anatolia, and from there migrate to Britain, bringing the Ark of the Covenant with them. So that's another massive area. There's so much in this subject, isn't it? More rabbit holes. Yes, more rabbit holes. But, so when we were, Craig, we haven't heard from for ages, and he wasn't very well last time I spoke to him. I'm going to try and get hold of him again this week. He discovered the Lion Stone up in a field, and the Lion Stone, you see it on the top of our, a drawing by David, on the top of our Britain's Hidden History group, where he's drawn the Lion Stone. I went up there with David a year ago, probably, and you can see it pointing directly at the Ark of the Covenant. And of course, as someone's pointed out on the comments there, the lion being the Lion of Judea, and this all ties in with the star maps again. That's why this is so difficult. This is why Wilson Blackett books tend to ramble a bit sometimes, or appear to, because you can't just talk about one thing, because everything is dependent on knowing about other things. It all ties together, and that's what's so wonderful about it. Nothing jars. You never come across a new area of research and say, oh my goodness, what's that doing there? No, it all keeps adding to the picture and the narrative, and all ties in together. Right, okay, there are meant to be 2 arcs. Well, it depends what an arc is. Some people say there's a lot of arcs. I've had people contacting me lately, and they say the arc is actually some sort of, what's the best word to use it? A key or a switch that is used to activate the power that's harnessed in the pyramids. Something I might have scorned as being a bit wacko a few years ago, but not anymore. Not anymore. Who knows what's been hidden from us. One for the original broken tablets and one for those made by Moses. That could be one theory. That's what you mean. So there's 2 arcs carrying the covenant between God and Israel. Yes, Jessica Lindsay, thank you. Yeah, it is meant to be dangerous to approach the ark, and I will definitely concur with that. If you read the stories in the Bible, you will see a number of people killed by it. And there's a particular family, I think they're called Obadiah, and their job is to protect or look after the ark. And one theory is, I don't know, this one I just made up, but some sort of energy was given off by this ark. Some people see this as tying in with the pyramids and energy and some sort of energy creation machine or something like that. I wonder if it's the rocks concerned are actually meteors or something from space, which would have made them highly radioactive, or it's a radioactive material. And for some reason, these people, Obadiah family, managed to cover themselves up to be protected from the radiation or some sort of immunity, but it definitely killed vast numbers of people. And this is one of the key stories. When the ark was moved around, they moved this family with them to look after it carefully. I definitely would be against the idea of completely digging away the top of Two in a Glow and seeing if there's an ark there. I think there's far less invasive ways of doing that. There's already been ground penetration radar. There's definitely a chamber there. You can access the chamber, apparently, and it's thought it could well be there. And I think, even if you don't have the technology now, I'm pretty sure we do, just get the cameras in there, have a look, show it, and leave it there, because it's an amazing situation. If you have a chance to look at where it is, the sweep of the hills around it, it's like a temple in the middle. The whole area is like one enormous temple with the hills forming the circle, and you've got Judah the lion pointing at it, all the different star signs around it. It's magical. It's magical. So someone else saying, yes, some say it's a capacitor, some say the ark is part of an old machine. I mean, on the tin it says it's the Ark of the Covenant. It's the boat, like an ark, like Noah's Ark. It's an ark that carries the covenant, being the promise between the two people. It's between God and the people. So I think when people talk about the machine, maybe that's the Grail, because that's the other thing with Arthur we never even touched on, was the Grail stories, and I think that's just confusion. I think there's Wilson and Blackett's thing. Grail is some sort of ancient document, and the Grail. I mean, if you go with that, the Holy Blood, Holy Grail books, it's the Royal Bloodline, which we cover in other places, marrying into the Holy Family and Christianity, and it could be that kind of thing. We've got another person saying it's a power supply. Chris Wood, yes, capacitor. Yeah, a lot of interest. Let me pass you to do perhaps that could be next week's subject. What do you think? What should we do next week? Concentrate on the Ark of the Covenant, give the full story how that got there, or something about the Grail, perhaps. Ross, does the word Kinnigan, mean anything to you? I've been researching the Emerald Tablets. No, sorry, can't help with that one. Anyone else? Kinnigan. I shall try and write it out. That was a bad idea. The camera's falling over. Hang on. I have to stop. Keep calm, Ross. Keep calm. Keep smiling. Kinnigan. I think that's right. No, I don't know that one. Perhaps someone else might know it. I think I spelt it right. Oop. Where's he gone? What's going on with this camera? You can see my leg. What? Oh, we're on a lag. Oh, that's where it is. We're behind. Sorry, it's a bit laggy again. I'm ahead of you. I hate when that happens because that means your comments, I'm seeing them miles after. Come on, Kinnigan, show yourself. Oh well. Hopefully you can see it. I'll try my best. Oh, so close. Oh, look at that. I don't know. If someone wants to talk about it more, that'd be great. We're in a massive rabbit warren. Yes, we are. And funny enough, I got given these curtains. I say given, stolen really from my sons. And behind me you can see there's rabbits on there, look. Wasn't intentional, but yeah, it does look like going down rabbit holes. Thank you for the nice comments. The Vatican's already got it. Do you know what the texts actually are that include mention of the burial of Arthur? Yes, there's a few, I can't remember them all, but the Brutes of England has got a big mention of that, and it's supposed to be, the dates are slightly confusing. I think we're looking at 579, but I think in the Brutes you have to knock 33 years off that. And I think go down for 545. And of course this comes down to the British preference to run their dates from the crucifixion of Jesus, or the ascension. Well, not ascension, it wouldn't stay away from that. When he becomes deified, not even that. Anyway, from the crucifixion, as opposed to the Roman practice of dating from the birth. So you have to add 33 years. So that's one big source, and I will do a thing. Hang on, I'll make notes. So we'll do one on the Ark, shall we? And then one on sources for Arthur. Any other topics for coming there? Left is so many questions. I don't know anything about the Emerald Tablets, sorry. Does anyone know about Emerald Tablets? There's good chat going on there. I think I've almost lost my voice again. That seems about my limit, I think. So, I remember last week I left the music on in the chat, and it went on for about an hour, I think. In the chat room. Can I do it again? Can I find the music? Come on, any more questions? Yeah, there is an account of the Saxon. Yeah, in the Saxon Chronicles. Of course there is. Come on, computer, let me do this. That's it. I've got to live with a map of 540 Britain for the rest of my life, according to this computer. Right, what else we got there? Ebiso was captured. I think I missed out too much conversation to catch up there. Migration, please. Arthur, I think we... Yeah, okay. Yeah. I tried to do that in the first the migration, and then it all went wrong. Well, you could hear me, but all the graphics went and everything else went. Obviously, completely different now. I was like, bashed my computer a few times. I'm going to have to do this on the big computer. I think my notebook's struggling to cope with it all. I think it's part of the problem. Let's check I didn't miss anything out as well, because I had some videos and pictures. I was going to show pictures of Castle Cork. Look up Castel Cork yourself. Cork is Welsh for red. C-O-C-H. Cork. Emerald Tablets of Thoth. Thoth. Oh man, I've got to get if I get the two cameras working now. Thoth. I am going to be doing a video on Thoth with cameraglyphics this week. I am. This is where it gets complicated now, because so much of our knowledge of Egypt and the religion and the Book of the Dead and all this kind of stuff, unfortunately, is based pretty much on guesswork, including even the name Thoth. It doesn't even say Thoth. And I know, even the people who are very much prepared to question the mainstream. This is something you have to be aware of. There's a closing comment here, okay? And this applies to me as much as anybody else in the audience. We're always trying to convince people to not just swallow the whole mainstream narrative, and to be aware that a lot of occlusion, a lot of hiding has gone on. A lot of this has been hidden of the real story. And in its place, false narratives have been created. Quite often, answers are not known, and answers are being invented to fill those gaps. And we almost laugh at people. Don't do that. And silly you just follow this one mainstream narrative. You must know the schools teach you a load of rubbish. The TV talks a load of rubbish. These things you read in newspapers, a load of rubbish. Why do you believe that? And what do some people, and I've done it as well, replace it with? You must believe this. And then when someone comes along and questions the new narrative, or you could argue it's the old narrative, whatever it is, this alternative history or a narrative or account or version of events that you found, we've got to be really certain then not to become as belligerent and defensive about people questioning that. That is, I can't emphasize enough how important that is. And it's so important for what we do. If people come and question the work and find holes or gaps or problems, if they're rational and backed up with evidence, we have to be prepared to rethink. We have to be prepared to say, well, the mainstream looks wrong, or maybe it isn't wrong. Even someone can reprove that to us, all right? But generally, I think this is the scenario. Yeah, I think the mainstream is wrong. I can show it was wrong. But also, the narrative that's put in its place also could be wrong. And we have to be prepared to move on that. And one thing which I think is going to cause a lot of problems with the chiroglyphics, for those who don't know, Wilson and Blackett worked out back in the 80s how you could read hieroglyphics using Welsh as a key, like a cipher to understand it all. It's a big subject. I've written a book on it, chiroglyphics. You can also read in their stuff how they worked it out, Moses in the hieroglyphs. The point is, a whole culture, or even a subculture, has been built up on ideas about things like Thoth, or the Egyptian Book of the Dead. And these arguments have been taken to the nth degree to create whole subjects and whole rabbit holes, if you like, and ideas about religions and all sorts of things. When you come along and you say, hey, this mainstream translation technique is wrong, it's guesswork, and we can show that, a lot of people from the alternative world, if you like, or authentic world, as Alan calls it, and go, yeah, I knew it was wrong. I knew I knew the mainstream narrative was wrong. I knew what they taught us in school was rubbish. Ha ha ha, I knew, and I'm right now. That doesn't necessarily follow. And one of the problems is going to be, I think, a lot of the theories and ideas about pyramids and a lot of very sensitive issues to people. Why the pyramids are there, why they were built, are they power generators, who's Thoth, and all that kind of thing, are going to be shown to be based on very flimsy guesswork. I mean, Samuel Birch was the guy who first translated the Book of the Dead, and as far as I know, it hasn't really been changed much. And that he had been drafted into the British Museum. He was a China expert, the language, Chinese language, not the pots. And he was put in charge of Egyptology because he didn't have anyone. He had no one to learn from, no one to teach. Everyone was sending in their findings from the field, and they were saying you'd have the same discovery and 100 different translations of it. And he would just pick the one that looked most likely. And after doing this for a while, he thought, well, I probably know more about this than anyone. I'm going to translate the Book of the Dead. And that's how he did it. He just there's no rhyme or reason, just inspired. And in many ways, the writing of these people was fantastic. I talked with Angie about it. Some of the poetry and the love stories and the adventures, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing. They're beautiful works of literature. But I don't think there's much fact involved in them. And we have to start again with these subjects. So the hubris of mainstream science and history to think they know everything shan't be matched by our hubris in thinking that we do. And we've got to be prepared to question and accept our own ideas and theories being questioned, whether that be the works of Wilson and Blackett, or the writings of Thoth, or Emerald Tablets, or pyramids and their purpose, or whatever it is. So there we are. That was a bit deep and heavy, wasn't it, for me? So I seem to have no way of getting my screen back on my computer. It's just completely died. So I don't know. Oh, for a second then. I'll try and put some music on or something, give my voice a rest, and I hope you enjoyed that. And, yeah, I didn't mention Excalibur, sorry. Alright, everyone, so from me, and I can do it like a proper DJ now. I have to fade the music in, don't I, when I do this? Which I should have all ready, queued up would have been good, wouldn't it? Wouldn't that have been cool? But I don't. God, we got one more contest. Thank you very much. Got to go, sadly. I'm going to go as well. What was about the sword in Texas? Yeah, it's a quick one on that then. It's the sword in Texas. There are two major swords of Britain. One is supposed to be the sword that Julius Caesar lost in his battle with the British back in 54 BC. I think it's Cadwaladon was supposed to take it from him, but Cadwaladon is battle and Walden's leader, so it wasn't his real name anyway. Arivagis, perhaps, whoever it was. And that stone was held as the Caesar's sword, as a great trophy that was kept for a long, long time, and appears, you see it places on flags and stuff, like the City of London, you see it in the corner. You see the Red Cross, which is supposed to be Joseph Arimathea, gave that to Arivagis back in the 1st century, and the sword would appear to be Caesar's sword. And then there's the other sword, of course, which ties in with possibly Excalibur. And that's when you have this whole concept. The story is, for those who don't know, in renovations were done, 30 years ago, 30, 40 years ago perhaps. They came across, when they were refurbishing an old building from right back to the 17th century, so when the first founders went over to America, for that migration anyway. The first founders from there, they when the building was refurbished, they took away some of the walls, panels, and sure enough, they found this ancient sword, which could be maybe the sword of Excalibur or the sword of Britain, and probably the sword of, I don't know, do I? Why should I guess? And this part of the story as well was in the what's called the English Civil War, which was really a kind of revolution with Owen Williams, the Welsh boy, who became known as Oliver Cromwell, who probably had a better claim to the English throne or the British throne than Charles did. But he's the parliamentarian, but that's another story. We're not getting into that kind of era. So around about that era, when all the loot was taken, at the end of it, they said, can you give us all the loot back, please, and we'll pay you for it. And a lot of the treasures of the country were got back on that basis. It was a very smart idea. All this loot you picked up during the war, please bring it all back to London, we'll give you money for it, and then the treasures stay together. Well, the only thing, or I'm sure there are other things, but the main important, famous thing that was never recovered was the Sword of Britain. And the rumour is now that it got taken with presumably Pilgrim Fathers or some early settlers to America, where this sword was hidden in the wall of this house and was revealed 30, 40 years ago when the house was refurbished and the walls are stripped back. So there's the story. Take your pick on that one. Alan had a look at... Yeah, Chris Wood mentions that Alan looked at it and it has Colburn on the blade. Now again, for those people who are new to some of this, Colburn is the name for the ancient Welsh, or British I should say, writing system. The Cymry or Cymraeg writing system, which consists mostly of straight lines and can be traced all the way back as part of the migration story. It's how you read Etruscan. You can read Stela, big stones over in Anatolia, all the way back. And, all that way back, you can read these things because it's based on the Welsh language. So if there was Colburn on there, that would certainly be a big one, wouldn't it? And the Spear of Destiny as well. Yeah, have you heard about the Spear of Destiny? I don't know how that ties in with this. I should do. Oh, people just encouragement. Oh, yeah. Someone's mentioned chipping in for me. That would be nice at some point, but I'm not going to ask for money just yet. Anything would help. But what I am going to ask for money for, though, we do need some help with. We've got to get Alan Wilson and Baron Blackett, who discovered nearly all of this work. They don't have much income. They're living... they're isolated anyway, so there's not a lot of difference to them. When I spoke to Alan the other day, he's like, we're doing it, he stays in the house anyway. What they desperately need, though, is their ancient computer that they were struggling by on as completely packed in. And really want to help them buy I think a laptop would be the easiest. Just plonk it in front of them. I want with good sound, because their hearing's going a little bit. Alan is 88. He was 88 last week, and I didn't do a happy birthday thing. Should have mentioned it last week in the programme. And Barham's birthday was end of May, so that wasn't long ago. I've written on the wall. When's his birthday? Oh, end of April, sorry. So we had both the birthdays go by recently, and I should really mention them in these broadcasts. And if you want to send them birthday greetings, it's not too late. You can send them directly to me, Ross, at cumroglyphics.com. You can send it to me like that if you wish, and I will happily print out the emails. It's what I normally do on other years, or Christmas. I print out all the emails and goodwill messages into a bundle it all up with a nice big card, and I usually drive up there, but of course we got this lockdown thing going on. I can't drive up there, but I will post it all up there and save everyone having to find the address and all that kind of thing. You haven't even got to buy a stamp, so please, Ross at cumroglyphics.com. Send me a goodwill message with your name on it. I'm not fishing for information. I'm going to say anything on it. But also what I want to do, if you could please get in touch about making a contribution to buy the new computer, that would be really appreciated. Let's get them online, and I'll try and get them talking to the camera as well, and everyone can see them. They're still going strong, don't worry. There's got more work coming out. We've got more books coming out. It's very important. Oh yeah, the spear that pierced the side of Jesus was the Spear of Destiny. Of course it was. Yes. So belated happy birthday to Wilson and Blackett. Let's help them buy a computer, please. Or better still, let's raise all of it. I've already had over £200 in donations. I reckon if we can get to about 400, 500, I'll make up the rest and things. And then we can... I'll get it all fixed up so they've got words they can carry on writing. Really important. I'll put all their documents on it, because I already have them, because I'm editing their books and getting the new stuff out. They'll have it all there, so they can add, they've got their reference. I'll have it all set up with an internet connection. They've already got the internet. And I want to have speakers so they can listen to things like this and the programs. And you people, horrible expression. All of us can email them. Wouldn't that be great? We can send emails and get replies from them personally, rather than everything coming from me. I'm not doing this with the information or the contacts. I want everyone involved as much as possible. And the more we can stimulate them and keep them going, the better. Because what I've discovered is there's nothing wrong with Alan Wilson particularly. Got both of them. They're both. People underestimate Barham. He's sharp, don't you worry. He's doing a lot of the research. It's not all Alan. Alan's just a better talker, he's the front man. And everyone thinks it's just him. It is a partnership. Trust me on that one. It really is. Alan always goes on about it. Especially as Barham's really good at storing information and cross-referencing and checking and blah, blah, blah. So please bear both of them in your thoughts. What I find with Alan when I go and see him, it can be... I blame TV. I think he watches too much TV, which is another reason I want to get him a computer that works. It's almost like he needs to get the engine running again, and then after a very short time, half an hour even, that's it. He's back to normal again. Everything's still there. Everything's still brilliant. He's still a genius. He just needs more stimulation, I would argue. So please, let's help him do that. I'm glad people say they like Barham as well. How do you make donations? Should have set that up by now, shouldn't I? People have just been doing bank transfers. But what I will do is... I need to get the boys to bed now. I'm getting a message. I will set up a Patreon or Just Give In or whatever. Thank you very much for asking. It really would help. And we'll get that set up. And as you know, book sales is always good. All the revenue we get from the books, we'll share it with Wilson and Blackett. We need something to keep the thing running. Although in the last time I did some paid work. This is kind of full-time now. Which I love doing, but if the money runs out, then so do the programs and so does the research. So a little bit of help would help. But please, this is not like I'm not doing this to raise money, so please don't think that. I'm doing it because it's much more important. But I want to get more people involved. If you want to help that way as well, that would be cracking. I hate asking for money. And I'm desperately trying to get... I've got the music now. I think what's happening is it's so slow because I've got so much running on my computer. Presentations running, then you got the TV production software to make the program run. I'm just going to try and shut down as much as possible. Hopefully okay, and then we can get this blasted music playing. Oh yeah, by the way, apparently love of Baron's new album is not universal. Some people have... don't send a crash report. No, don't do that now. Yeah, some people have complained. So, can you play something else, please? Well, not really, no, because for one, we're going to be selling the CDs as cheaply as we can as we get out there. I'd make Baron's day if he could buy loads of the CDs. He's designed the cover, and it was originally recorded, and I've slightly guessed, 80s or 90s. So if it sounds slightly, the style sounds from that era, it's because it is. And tragically, his brother, his brother died not long after. So I'll give you a little bit of trivia here, since it's taken me so long to get this music lined up, and I don't want to just turn things off. Is that Baron... I'll tell you some little background stories you might not know. Baron Blackett was actually quite successful pop career. Him and his brother were going places, and I've seen the newspaper cuttings. He's got some on his wall. He's very proud of it. And what a good-looking lad he used to be. Still is. And how he... they had a big moment, and Alan Wilson was involved. And not a lot of people know this stuff. And Alan Wilson actually went with him and arranged meetings with recording studios. They're on the edge of signing, and it's going to be the big time. They had an album deal with one of the big record companies. They were down in London. They had the studio was booked. Everything was good to go. And then, rather unfortunately, it seemed to be too much for Baron's brother. And he seemed to slowly... I don't want to say too many bad things about anybody, but he seemed to sort of, I don't know, broke maybe. Anyway, he started drinking heavily and various other things and was unable to produce the album with Baron. And he was the front singer. And Baron was very much into his Gibson guitars and that twangy sound and the sound effects. And the album it's quite tragic, really. So the album, then the deal fell through because they couldn't perform the contract. I find it quite a tragic story, and I think Baron still dwells on it quite a lot. That was his moment where he could have been a famous pop star. How about them onions, eh? And then, that's definitely not going to work, so I'm just going to close the show at some point, or leave it quiet. If you want to carry on with the chat board, can't get the music working. And so anyway, what he did then was, a few years ago, probably 10 years ago, he got the album digitally remastered, which is what you can hear now on the CDs. He got a few hundred CDs printed off, which I wish he'd told me that sooner, because I printed some more off. You have the original ones he's had, okay? And the covers and everything, and a lot of it's based on his time in New York. And I have a short video clip, which I've recorded, of him talking about his music, not just his history. And it's about time I put that up. It was all being saved for... The album was going to come out when the book St. Patrick Rocks comes out, but that's all been held up by this lockdown. And unfortunately, the printers are closed and he can't get his book done, and it's all a bit of a nightmare. So we might just release the music anyway on its own. And that video of Baron talking about music, which is it's so different to what he normally talks about. And without giving everything away, the music is the melody, the runs, if you like, the chord patterns are based on music found in medieval abbeys, and it's actually it's got a kind of church. That's why it's called St. Patrick Rock. It's got a few different meanings to that name, and it's copying the chord structures and then changing them to more of a rock beat and style, prog rock, whatever you want to call it. So it seems like prog rock and experimental music, but actually it goes all the way back to medieval times. So there you go. Right, unfortunately, I am going to have to go, but I can leave you with the chat board open. I just put my children to bed, and I'm running out of energy, I think. So thank you very much. Wonderful. The comments have been so... It sounds like The Shadows, Ross. That's nice. Music right up my street. People like it. Awesome to find it still on. Eddie the Man 2. It's only just still on, mate. It's about to be off, so sorry about that. You have to go back to the beginning and watch it sometime. And I hope everyone enjoyed it. And I'm going to have to say, North Star, I hate to say goodbye. I do. And I shall have to do it. And without the music, maybe when I close this down, the music will work. But I'll leave the comments open for a little bit longer so you can carry on. And blessings to everybody. And peace, Hedduch. And I will speak to you again soon. and look forward to all the messages and the birthday messages for Alan and Baron. God bless everyone. No star. Like a pro, the music just started working. I don't believe it. I blew it then, didn't I? I could have been so cool. I could have been so cool when I was turning that down. Oh. There you go. What was the odds on that? Just when I'd given up and walked away, music starts. Alright, folks, have fun. I'll do the bedtime run now. And maybe I will read the boys to get to sleep nicely about Wilson the Blackens, Arthur the Walking. Yay! They love it. Good night.
Countdown, you're always putting me down. Is there a love countdown? You're always messing around on the town, We must decide what to do before our love is through. Stop denying yourself things that's good for you. Looks like we are through. To me it's nothing new. I've got a feeling for your love. See my point of view. Is there a love countdown? You're always putting me down. Is there a love countdown? Living fast, spinning round. Sex is part of love, they say. A game we tend not to play. I've got a feeling you may be honest one day. You either win or lose, and why should I refuse? You've got a feeling for me now, 'cause I keep you amused. Love countdown, always putting me down. Is there a love countdown? Is there a love countdown? When I'm spinning round. Love countdown. Is there a love countdown? You're living fast, spinning round. Love countdown. Wheeling on, spinning round.
When I say, can you stop playing little girl games? And what kind of a man do you want? I meant, I'm no saint, and I don't believe in fooling. You tease while I bend over backwards to please. Is this all for real? Yes, indeed.
Sun is shining, why would it burn? Muriel, play with all the cards you have. The sun is shining, why would it burn? You may be a sweet kid, so Puritans are punters, slyer than a night train. Come up to one only dinner. So say I thought you right. So say I thought you right. Forgive all my artistic class. You see me all mixed up in cash, like a cup of sand, the gravel of sand, the gravel of sand, the gravel of sand. I guess you all don't seem to give a damn, like air conditioner in the cloud. No reply, no reply, no reply, no reply. The sun is shining, why would you burn? Muriel, take a look at the color we have. The sun is shining, why would you burn? Sweet conversation, broken all in pieces. See concentration in ancient lands. Early dawn is blue. No offense sounds, but for you, but for you. In the Elvis Ross. come and see me too. There's a lot I'd like to tell you, you'll find interesting. Lady, wanna feel at home? Champagne, let's drink in vain. Still used to impress the naive, worship's expensive part. If you only could conceive just what you mean to me, 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 me. My heart is pounding at the thought of you. Bam, 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 your perfume is so fine to me. Sly eyes, let me be with you. Sly eyes, come and see me too. There's a lot I'd like to tell you, you'll find interesting. Laggard, what a feeble poem. Stop playing, don't start that again. I'm abused to address ladies, what shucks extensive slum. If you only could conceive just what you mean to me, 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 me. My heart is pounding at the thought of you. Bam, 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 your perfume is so fine, and you are always mine. Polarized, no apology. Scream for a new technology. There's a lie in every million that say go sour. Laggard, what a feeble poem. Stop playing, don't start that again. I'm abused to address ladies, what success that's her slum. If you only could conceive just what you mean to me, 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 me. My heart is pounding at the thought of you. Bam, 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 your perfume is so fine, and you are always mine. Sly eyes, let me be with you. Sly eyes, come and see me too. There's a lot I'd like to tell you, you'll find interesting.
Paradise in the heart of man is better than something less. The first time we met, something strange inside happened. Nothing to equal the emptiness. shop shall truly get tired in due course. Another thing to say is my Jaguar still standing out in the rain on Water Street. So we'll be in paradise in the heart of mine is better than something less. First time we met, something strange inside happened. Nothing to equal the emptiness.